Module 2, General Design Assignment. Hi, Joe Cerrone here. I'm going to go through the General Design Assignment for Module 2, which can be found here under Content. Module 2. And in this module, we're going to go through how to use coordinates, absolute and relative polar coordinates. And if we link to the AutoCAD page, we can see there's some videos about how to use absolute coordinates, and there's some videos on how to use relative polar coordinates, as well as a direct distance video, and I recommend you take a look at those. The one on relative coordinates is not so often used as much as relative polar coordinates. And basically what we mean by a relative polar coordinate is we use the line command and then we tell it the distance and the angle to draw that line. When we use absolute coordinates, what we're doing is we're giving it a point on a Cartesian coordinate system or an XY coordinate grid, and it will go with Z as well, but most people just need the XY coordinates. It's just like plotting points on a graph. So let's get started. If we look at the exercise here and click on that, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to draw this shape, and the starting point is going to be point 2, 1, and then these are the coordinate locations for each of the endpoints of the line. And basically what we're doing here is we're looking at how to enter coordinates by absolute and relative. We're going to skip the middle one here. This is our angular system on CAD. So when we draw a line to the right, that would be 0 or 360 degrees. When we go north, it would be 90. When we go west, that would be 180. And that'll become prevalent as we go through and work the problem. And so essentially when we work this, we just go through and we input the coordinates as they're shown in this list of these 14 points. So let's get started. We're going to go through and start AutoCAD, and so I've got it running already. I'm just going to click on it. You don't need a title block for this, but you're welcome to use one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say File New, and I'm going to use the AutoCAD default, and I'm going to say Open. And here I have my coordinate screen on. This right over here is my user coordinate system, or the location of 0 in my XY coordinate system. And then as we look through the interface, what I like to do is I like to click this little down arrow here, and I like to enable the menu bar. I'm going to hide it, and I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to show it. And I just like that because it's hard to describe the glyphs or the pictures versus when you have the menu bar enabled, you get the entire menu with the commands. And with AutoCAD, you can type in the commands. So if we come back here to our exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the line command. It says drawing setup, set up units to decimal and drawing limits to 9 by 13. Invoke the line command and then respond to the points. Now limits really aren't that important. What they do is they basically set up the area for the grid, but essentially you're working with a limitless drawing border, so we're not going to worry about drawing limits. We will go through and check the units, and so we'll come back in here, and what we'll do is we'll type in units, and we'll see that it is set to decimal, which is fine. The other way we could do it would be with architectural units when we do something like a floor plan. So I'm going to leave that set up, and then I'm going to take one more look at this and see what else it says. So we're good. Getting back to the drawing then, what we're going to do is we're going to say OK here, and then I'm going to draw this with, I'm going to change the color to blue. All I have to do here is click on this layer, click on this little swatch, and I'll change that to blue, and I'll say OK. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to make the line weight thicker so it's easier to see. There's a couple of ways you can do that. The best way is to do that in layer properties. And so if I go into layer properties here and I expand this out a little bit, and they really put more stuff in here than you need. If you double click on these little spots here, you'll get the entire words, and then you can kind of see what's going on with it. And so what I like to do is I like to make a line weight that's a little heavier. Typically I'll go with 0.7 or 0.6. We'll go with 0.6 because I believe that's an ASME standard now. And so that's that, and then I'm going to enable the line type down here so that you actually see it. And so what's the difference? If I drew a line like this, it's kind of thin. I'm going to hit escape here. Versus if I come over here to my options and I enable line weights, and then this little button comes on here and I turn that on, now it's just easier to see. And so I'm going to come in here and erase that, delete, and then we're going to start by drawing our first line segment, and that's going to be at coordinate 2, 1. And we know that by looking at our sheet here where it says first point 2, 1, enter, and we're going to do these points in order. So we're going to crank through this right now. We're going to say line. The first point is going to be 2, 1, and what that's going to do is it's going to give you an x and y coordinate based on its location to 0. And so I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to see that it's off the screen. And so the best thing to do when that happens is just to push the wheel on the mouse and pan it, and then you can kind of get that on the screen. And you can turn the wheel on the mouse to zoom it, but pushing the wheel and turning the wheel on the mouse will allow you to navigate that. And then if we look at the next point on this, and I'm not going to flip back to it, you might want to print this out. The next one is 2, 4, and what you have to do with it is you have to type in the pound symbol, and then it goes into the XY coordinate. And so now it's looking for my x coordinate, which is going to be 2, 4, enter. And that's going to be 2 units tall and 4 units over, or 2 units over from the 0 location and 4 units up. Now we could make the grid a little bit less fine so that the units match up with that. And so I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit escape, and then I'm going to type in grid, and I'm going to set the grid spacing to 1. And now you can see it's 2 units over and 4 units up from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to draw the next line, and I'm just going to attach to the endpoint. So I'm just going to come over here and hover over that. Now if it doesn't attach, I can put on an O snap, and then it will attach. And there it is. Or you can just erase it and start over. It's only 1 coordinate. And then the next coordinate is going to be pound sign, and it's going to be 3, 4, enter. And then you just go through the coordinates one by one. Pound sign, 3, 8. And something happened there. It was supposed to be 3, 4. So I made a mistake. And so what I'm going to do, and I have something else on here. It looks like I have ortho on. So I'm going to turn that off. And we can go through these glyphs as we talk about this. But if you make a mistake, type U for undo, and it'll bring you back to the last point. And I'm going to type in pound sign, x coordinate is 3, y coordinate is 4. Next coordinate, pound sign, 3, 8. Enter. Pound sign, 2, 8. Enter. Pound sign, 2, 10. Enter. Pound sign, 3, 10. Enter. Pound sign, 3, 11. Enter. £, 5, 11, enter, £, 5, 4, enter, £, 6, 4, enter, £, 6, 1, enter, £, 2, 1, enter. That gets us back to the location absolute coordinate 2, 1. I'm going to hit the escape key, and that completes the absolute coordinate exercise for this. And you can put your name on it. You can just go over here to text. Multi-line text is probably the most like a word processor, and you can just put a little box on here. And then I can close the text editor and save the drawing, file, save as, and I'll just save it to my desktop. I recommend you save it with your initials, dash, we'll call it LAB2A. And I also like to dial it down to an older version in case I have to share it with somebody who doesn't have 2018. So if you go back a few years, like 2013, everybody can read it. All right, that completes this exercise.